Hello and welcome to episode 19 of the OSU Mapcast. I'm Cinnabun, and this is quite a different episode today. I'm not joined by a guest from OSU. I'm actually joined by Joetastic, the rank 1 mapper with over 560 maps for Beat Saber. Glad to have you on, Joe. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, so my name is Joetastic. I'm one of the top Beat Saber mappers, and I'm well known for having over 500 maps and doing a lot of anime openings.
Nice. And where you're from?
Alright,
And like how old are you, if you want to say that?
yeah, sure. So I'm from Singapore, and yeah, currently I'm doing my military service, so I'm quite busy with a lot of stuff.
That's impressive, yeah. Sounds
Yeah.
pretty hard. Alright, so the first question right off the bat is
Mhm.
how did you first get into Beat Saber?
So I got into Beat Saber. So it was somewhere around June where I was like browsing Facebook and I saw a mixed reality video of this lady playing Beat Saber. So mixed reality is basically when there's like real life footage of a player, of a real person, mixed with gameplay of Beat Saber. If you want, I can find a link to it for you. I
Kind
can
of like
share it
body
to you.
tracking or?
Not body tracking. So the person has a green screen that they're standing
Okay.
behind, and so what it does is that it removes the background and it puts the person into the game. So it's a real person, but they're in the virtual world playing the game.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, so I saw a gameplay video of that, and at that point of time I was doing my internship, so I was really bored and I was actually looking for something to do. So I saw that, I was like, you know what, like this looks like fun, like I should probably just get a VR headset and try out Beat Saber for myself.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I was at that point of time I was actually looking for like something to get into. So Beat Saber was something that, like once I saw I wanted to get into it.
Yeah, that makes sense because Beat Saber does look really cool.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's like at that point of time, for me VR was like still a gimmick.
Right.
Like all I saw was like, oh, you can, do like there's like hand tracking and there's shooting, but when I saw Beat Saber I was like, that looks really really fun. It's like a rhythm game and the mechanics look really simple to understand and cool.
Yeah,
And
like you're just waving swords, slicing stuff.
yeah, then I discovered that there was like modded songs, like you can have any song, like any like anime opening as long as someone has mapped it. I was like, oh my god, like you can play all your favorite songs in a VR world, in a VR rhythm
Right.
game. Like how cool would that be? So that's what got me
I mean,
into
definitely.
Beat Saber. Yeah.
All right, and you mentioned like doing
Mhm.
military service and all that, but like what are some other things you do outside of like Beat Saber?
Yeah, so besides my military service, so my other I have two other hobbies. I do mountain biking and I do scuba diving. So really
wow.
outdoor activities. Yeah. So for mountain biking, I have a group of friends that I mountain bike with, and we formed a small racing team. And occasionally
Oh,
when
so you
there's
race mountain
yeah,
biking?
I do racing. Yeah, I do as a hobby, but we also do racing like occasionally.
Dang.
Yeah.
So
So
you stay super active.
No, unfortunately now due to my military service, I
Alright.
can't really race because like the risk of injury, like if I get injured, then I can't be in the military. So yeah, I
That makes sense.
try to avoid that. Then I also do scuba diving. I'm a advanced scuba diver. I got my license 2 years ago.
Oh, so like what is like the difference between advanced and like a starting? Like what can you
Okay.
do?
Yeah, so advanced scuba diver means I can do stuff like night diving, cave diving. I can dive a bit deeper than other divers, and I can do underwater navigation.
That sounds super cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I actually got into scuba diving because of an anime. You ever heard of Grand Blue?
I have, yes.
Yeah, it's the comedy anime. So I watched that and I was like, and you know how like anime can really like make sports look awesome. So it made scuba diving look
Right.
really cool to me. So
It's like I want to do that.
yeah, I was like, I want to do that. And then um, it just so happened like it's a coincidence. My dad, he also does scuba diving. So
Oh,
like
really?
yeah, so one day I just went up to him. I was like, "Can I join you?" And he was really really happy.
Is he also like advanced and all that?
Yeah, and he's the one that helped me go all the way to the advanced stage. He's the one that pushed me to get the advanced license.
Dang, that's super cool.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that I got into scuba diving because of an anime. I don't think I can tell. I don't think I
Fair
can
enough.
tell. I don't think I can tell him that. He
No,
thinks
like you
that.
say, Dad, I did it because of you.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what I told him. He's like, oh, my son. That's yeah. He's so proud of
Like
himself.
father, like son. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess
So
getting back to Beat Saber. So like Beat Saber, is like a VR game. So what kind of like equipment do you have for like Beat Saber and stuff that you use?
okay, yeah. So for Beat Saber, you just need a VR headset, and you
Of
just
course.
need a powerful enough PC to run. Unless you're running on an Oculus Quest, then you don't really need a PC, since the Quest
All right, that's yeah.
is a mobile VR. Yeah. The software I use for mapping, I use a Mediocre Mapper, which is a third-party mapping software developed by someone called Squeakies.
Okay.
And I also use, I use Audacity to edit the audio. Stuff like GIMP to do the album artwork. And use Aero Vortex to find the BPM, stuff like that. So it's actually pretty basic. I just use all the free software that's like given to me.
That makes sense. And what kind of
Yeah.
headset do you have?
So I use an Oculus Rift, the what's it called, the RV1, the very first production model. It's
Okay.
kind of outdated right now because you need at least 3 USB slots for it to work. You need 2 for the sensors, and just 1 for the headset. But the newer Oculus, what's it called? Then the new Oculus, crap, I forgot the name of it.
Yeah, I'm not into VR headsets. I'm sorry.
Let me do a quick search right now. The Oculus.
I wanna say Rift S, but I guess I'm dumb.
Oh yeah. It's the Rift S. The Rift S.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it is. So the Oculus Rift
Okay.
S, it doesn't require any external sensor, so it's much easier to set up. So my
that makes sense.
one's a bit outdated. So like it has 2 sensors, which means it only works in like 180, like the sensor only works at 180 compared to the Rift S, which is 360. So
Like
I'm
degrees?
actually sorry.
Like 180 degrees.
Yeah, so
okay.
so the one I have only works at 180 degrees, but the Rift S can work at 360. So it kind of limits
I
my
see.
mapping a little bit. Cause in Beat Saber you can do 360 mapping, so you actually need to play test with 360 mapping. That's kind of difficult for me because I'm still
Right.
using the old version of the Oculus. Yeah.
Do you have any plans to like upgrade in the future?
Maybe yeah. Like, but VR headsets really expensive, and
They
selling
really
it
are.
selling is really expensive. So, I mean, I might get a Quest in the future since now I'm in the military. I can bring, the Quest is like a portable mobile setup, so I
You
was
just, like,
thinking of
play.
getting that. Yeah,
That's cool,
you
right?
can just put it on and just play anywhere. You don't even need a PC.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about it.
And so again, a little bit moving on. What are
Sure.
the kind of like other rhythm games VR plays? Not VR games you play?
Okay, so the other VR games I've played, let's see, on top of my head, there's Synth Riders, which is it's not like it's also a VR rhythm game, but its main mechanics is not slicing blocks like Beat Saber. It's more like
Right.
sliders, like really long sliders that's coming at you, and you need to hold your hand in a certain position to slide along it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. And another one would be O-Shape, which is imagine like the game show Hole in the Wall?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I remember that.
yeah, so imagine like a bunch of walls coming at you to the beat of the music, and you have to do certain poses.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's
Huh.
one. And another one, which is what a lot of people say is the closest to Osu, is called Audica. So imagine like circles, sliders appearing like in the VR space, and you have 2 guns, and you have to shoot at these targets.
Oh, I see. So like
Yeah.
Osu with guns.
Yeah, also with guns. So instead of clicking,
It's shooting.
You have to aim and shoot. Yeah, and they have
Interesting.
a whole mechanic. You have to do a certain pose and to get more scores. So it's really like a full body workout. Actually, all the VR games are like full body workout. That's what makes VR like really cool, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean like a VR and rhythm games are just like an insane mix with like some crazy stuff that you can do.
Oh yeah, it's really cool.
Have you ever tried like Mikosu?
No, I haven't tried. I haven't tried mapping in Osu. Like I know, like a lot of people have asked me to try Osu. Like, I'm not very good with I'm not very good with. Okay, I'm actually not that good with rhythm games for some reason. Cause like having a 2D screen and doing things like on time, like trying to get the
Right.
timing right is really difficult for me,
That makes
unless it's a
sense.
3D space for some reason. Like my hand-eye coordination when it comes to a 2D screen versus a 3D space, like completely different.
I guess I don't know if that's like spatial awareness or something like that.
Yeah, like I can slice a cube just fine in a VR, but if you ask me to click at a
A
certain
circle.
timing, yeah, a circle, like whoa, I can't do it on time. Yeah,
Whoa there, buddy. Slow down.
so like because I can't play Osu well, I don't think I can map Osu well as well because like your skill, like how well you map also depends on like how well you can play the game, right?
Right. And I mean,
Yes.
not too much with Osu at least, actually.
Yeah, probably not so much with Osu, but I never really dived into other like mapping in other games. I've tried like mapping for Synth Riders,
Right.
Audica, and O-Shape, but in the end I stuck to Beat Saber because that's what I'm good at, and that's where my reputation is. So yeah.
Right. So I guess moving from that, how did you get like into mapping for Beat Saber then?
Yeah, so I got into mapping into Beat Saber the same way a lot of other mappers probably got into mapping. So they have their favorite song that they wanted to play, but it's not inside the game.
Right.
So you take matters in your own hands and you learn how to do mapping and you try mapping it yourself. So for me, it was cause there weren't. Have you watched a show called Ruby by Rooster Teeth?
I
It's
don't think I have.
a it's an animated series. So they have this really cool soundtrack by
Oh, is that like the
a
CGI one?
yeah, the CGI one.
Okay, no, yeah, I've seen a little bit of that.
Yeah, so the soundtrack's really awesome, and then there was only like I think like 3 or 4 good maps like out of the entire 30 songs there were. So there was a lot of songs that weren't mapped, and no one was going to map it. So I decided to take things in my own hands and do it myself. So that's what got me into
Right.
mapping.
That's cool. And so what were
Yeah.
kind of like the struggles you had when you first started mapping?
The struggles. Yeah, I think so. My struggles were the same as like every other first mapper, probably timing issues. In Beat Saber, we also have something called flow, which
Okay.
is the how do I explain this? So it's flow is like it's like when one pattern connects to the next pattern. Like is it an
Yeah.
abrupt motion or is it smooth? Like you want the smooth, like a smooth swat dance sort of motion. You don't really want to be doing awkward cuts. I'm not sure if I can explain in Osu terms. Is there like awkward mapping in Osu, like really awkward?
Yeah, there is definitely.
Yeah, so the same thing with Beat Saber. So like any first mapper, they won't know what's awkward or what's smooth flow mapping. So it took me a while to learn that. Like I think I really got it down like only 90 maps in. Once I made like 90 maps, then I really understood like the basics of mapping, and that's when I really thought that like my timing was finally okay because like before that my timing was all over the place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most people still also struggle with like timing and flow in Osu as well. So it does take a little bit of just like finding out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. It took me like it took me 90 maps to finally
God.
realize okay, this works, that doesn't work. Took me a
But
lot
hey,
of
you
maps.
did it.
Yeah, I finally reached there. It's a really long and tough journey for me compared to some other mappers. Like there are some other mappers in Beat Saber where like their first map is like perfect and it gets
Right.
insane amount of upvotes, and like their next maps are like it keeps on getting better and better. But for me, I was like I actually deleted my a bunch of my first maps because they were really really bad. In fact, like even now my first maps their ratings aren't really that good.
I'm sure they're fine.
Yeah, I mean now I'm fine, but like looking back, could definitely have done better.
Right, of course. And how would you describe your style of mapping?
Ooh, okay. My style of mapping. A lot of people say my mapping has high flow, but recently a lot of people are saying my maps are too easy because of like how the meta is changing.
I
And I
see.
haven't been really following the meta because well, I like to map in my own style. I don't really like to follow any certain metas. Like I map to what's comfortable for me to play, like in my opinion. And I'm sure there's like a bunch of other players out there that's around my skill level that find my maps, just as fun. So I'll say for me my mapping style, the way I map is I know a lot of mappers, they like to place like placeholder nodes first to get the timing down, but I just map
Yeah.
from start to finish without like I map from start to finish, and then once I'm done at the very end, then I look through the whole map to find any mistakes and anything like that. So
That
it's
makes
a
sense.
it's a one shot process. That's actually how I map like a lot of maps, and that's how I map so fast.
So like, are there like specific like styles in Beat Saber that like are noticeable, or like how is that? Like, I'm not so aware of that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of specific styles in there's a lot of ways to map in Beat Saber because it's a VR game. There's different movements you can do for different patterns. Like even the same song, if it's mapped by two mappers, like the movements would be completely different, even if it had the same amount of notes and um like the same amount of rhythm in it. Yeah. So like the different styles you have like dance mapping, which makes it feel like you're dancing to the song. You have
Okay.
like challenge play style, which is really trying to push the players to their limits. Um, you have like meme mapping, which like they like it's basically troll mapping. It's trying to make the hardest map possible, without care for rhythm. So like think about songs that are like constant 1/8 or 1/4 notes non-stop.
Right.
Um, yeah, there's a lot of different styles of mapping. There's also a very recent one called wall mapping, which is using custom walls to make like custom detailed art in the game, in the maps. It's really cool. I haven't
see.
dived into it
That
because
sounds
like
interesting.
yeah, it takes a lot of time to do, but the results are really like stunning. Like if I could show you some videos, it really looks cool.
We could probably put some videos up on screen. We'll see.
All right, sure.
All right. And
Then
with you having
yeah.
like 500 plus maps and like all that, what would you consider would
Yeah.
be like maybe like your best map or your best couple of maps?
Oh man, I get asked this question a lot of like by a lot of people that like come into my catalog of maps. They're like, oh my god, you have 560 maps. Like, which is your best map? Like, which one should I start first?
Right.
I'm like, it's really difficult to choose. Cause like, imagine if you have two kids, it's already difficult to choose which is your favorite kid. Imagine having 560 of them.
That
Yeah,
is true. Yeah.
it's really difficult. But what I do have is like every like maybe 10 or so maps, I have like one favorite. Like I don't have a favorite map of all time, but I have a favorite recent map, I guess.
That makes sense. And I guess
Yeah.
like
So.
go ahead.
Mhm. So if you ask me what's my current favorite map, I'll say it's a Cruel Injustices, the one by
Ooh, I love that song.
yeah, but the one I did is a cover by Sakura Fujima from the idol group 227. So the reason why I
Oh.
chose this one is cause it has a constant BPM. The original version has a drifting BPM cause it
Yeah.
was like made in the 90s. Yeah.
Which is very hard to map.
Yeah, it's really difficult to map. Like BPM changes, I'm pretty sure it's difficult to map in OSU. It's even harder to map in Beat Saber. Cause like we don't really have proper drifting BPM tools or anything like that. We have a BPM changer, but that's about it.
Are you able to like set timing points or like how does that work?
So in Beat Saber, so there's like a grid, basically a 3D grid, and you can place notes along this grid.
Right.
And the grid it's basically divided into fours, like a normal like a musical sheet. So you just have to line up this grid with the waveform of the song, and you just place notes along this grid.
Okay.
That's for the 3D mapper. Yeah.
And then we're like changing BPM and all that. How does that like? What's the process between that?
So when you add a BPM block, it basically just changes the spacing between the grids. So like a slower BPM will make the grid smaller, a faster BPM no, a lower BPM will make the grid further apart, but a faster BPM will tighten up the grid. So you can place more notes, in less time because it's a faster BPM.
Ah, I see. Okay. Interesting. So then, how would you say mapping has like kind of changed since you first started playing and getting into mapping?
Oh, so when I started mapping, right, Beat Saber was still in its early days of mapping, so I actually got to evolve along with how the whole mapping scene was. Compared to like if you started mapping now, there's already like a whole meta, there's already all the rules in place and whatever. But I started like right when the mapping culture in Beat Saber was still starting, so there were no rules, there was no guideline. Everyone was still like experimenting with what's good, what's bad. So I got to see the changes. There's a lot of meta changes. Like I
Okay.
wouldn't like I yeah. Wait, what's the original question again? I think I
I
went
said,
too
how
off
would
topic.
like how has mapping changed since you first started playing and like getting into
Yeah,
mapping?
so mapping has changed a lot. There's a lot of emphasis on getting the rhythm right now. Like back then when Beat Saber first started, Like you just had to place like one note like every single like beat and you'll be fine. But now there's like there's like a drum fill here, you have to map to that. There's like there's this place you can place a slider, so you should probably place it there, stuff like that. Like so basically people know what to look out for in a good map now. So mapping it has been established. Like the rules of mapping have been established more now compared to 2 years ago when I first started out.
That's fair. So is there like you can like tell like this is an old map and this is a newer map?
Yeah, definitely. Like one thing, like the main thing, like you can tell between old maps and new maps is the speed actually. So
Really?
in Beat Saber, there's something called note jump speed. So as the name implies, it's the speed the notes jump at you because it's a 3D space, right? The
Yeah.
notes are coming towards you, and you can actually adjust the speed the notes come. So a lot of old maps, nobody knew that you could change the speed, so they all came at you like a really slow pace.
So that would be
But
like
now,
the approach rate or AR in Osu.
yeah, that's right, the approach
Okay.
rate. So back then the approach rate was like the default, it was really slow. But now all the newer maps, because all the mappers, you know how to change the speed now, so all the newer maps are at a way faster speed than before, which is a good thing for playability and for challenge, but it's also kind of a bad thing for all those newer players out there because the older maps were slower, so it's more beginner friendly. And now the newer maps are all much faster, so it's not really friendly towards the beginners.
That makes sense. 'Cause I guess with like mapping growing at the same side as like player skills increasing, you just get more and harder maps.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, it's the same thing in the ranking scene. Like,
Really?
the hardest ranked map in 2018 is like now like moderately difficult in 2020, and now the hardest ranked map in 2020 is probably like way like if you showed it to someone in 2018, he'll tell you that's impossible to play,
Right.
and that would never be ranked. Yeah,
No,
but
that's
you know,
definitely the
slowly
case for most community-driven rhythm games.
yeah, exactly. As the player base gets better and better, so the mappers push they are mapping to the limit.
That's fair. So
Yeah.
then what do you think of like dev maps from the base game and then like have it DLCs and all that?
Ooh, so yeah, there's a lot of controversy over the main maps because when Beat Saber first came out, the the mapping was actually pretty decent mapping, but it was made, it was the first ever maps made for the game. Like no one has made any custom maps because
Of course.
the game has never come out yet. So even the devs didn't really know how to make a proper map. But since then, they've hired a bunch of community mappers to come on board as official mappers, and the mapping has started coming closer and closer to the same quality as community-made maps.
I see. And did you work with any of that or no?
No, unfortunately, I wasn't picked to work with the official team. Yeah.
I see.
But it's fine, because their standards are probably much higher, and they probably don't pump out like one map a day, so
That makes sense.
it doesn't align with my workflow. Plus, I'm in the military now, and also I'm really busy.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
don't
Is there
plan
like
for it.
a clear difference between the dev maps as well and the DLC maps that people make, or?
Yeah, so custom maps, like for custom maps, anything go. You can just make one difficulty, any length of song. You can choose any song. But for devs map, obviously the developers have to license a certain song, so you can't really map what you want. And they also need full difficulty spreads, and they're up to a certain standard. Because obviously it's the official map, you can't map it poorly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I guess because I've been told with so stuff like mapping extensions or called noodle extensions, stuff like that, where like if you use
Yeah.
those in your maps, they're unrankable, or in some cases, like what are your like kind of thoughts on that?
So it kind of makes sense because what mapping extension does is so the basics of Beat Saber is that the notes can be placed in a 3x4 grid.
Right.
So it can be placed at your head level, torso level, and your leg level, and it can be placed on 4 lanes from left to right. So what mapping extension does is it basically extends the places you can place these blocks. So you can place notes like way above your head level. You can place it like five rows above your head, or you can place notes like way to your left or way to your right. And the problem is that in VR, right, you have to physically move.
Right.
Like so if let's say you're playing in a confined space, like let's say 1 meter by 1 meter, and you install a mapping extension map, and there's nodes that go all the way by 2 meters to the left or
You're
right, then
slamming
you
your
can't
hand into the wall.
yeah, unfortunately you slam your hand into the wall, so you can't really play the map. So that's one of the main reasons why it's unrankable. And another thing is you can actually do a lot of wall art, like custom walls. But the thing about it is that having too many walls load into the map at the same time it's really laggy. It's really performance heavy, so it also will affect the ranking because it's more focused on the nodes instead of the walls. So it's a bit unnecessary.
I see. Yeah, that makes actually a lot of sense. Yeah. So then,
Yeah.
what are some things that you want to see then in like mapping and like as the game progresses?
Ooh, well, so there's already a lot of mods out there. There's like the mapping extensions, which already, it basically expands what you can do with maps in Beat Saber. There's also Noodle extensions, which expands what you can do with walls. But personally, for me, right, I prefer to think inside the box. Like, I prefer to map within my limits. So,
I
like,
see.
I prefer the game like unmodded. I prefer to map vanilla style. So basically, I prefer to be restricted by the 2x4 grid. Like, I find it, like, for some weird reason, I find that restricting myself actually makes me think more creatively.
Really?
Yeah, cause like instead of relying on something else, you have to like change up the mapping or like to make your maps more interesting. You really have to focus on the mapping instead of like um you know um doing pretty walls or stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So then you just
Mm.
so you don't have you like used the mods before, or like you just like figured out it's like that's not for me.
I've dived a bit into it. Like some of my maps use mapping extension and Noodle extensions, all these mods. But for me, I find that well, it's just too much work. That's one thing. It's a lot of work for like something that that some players might not be able to play because all these what's it called extension maps, they require an extra mod, and if the player doesn't have this mod, they can't play the map, unfortunately.
Oh, okay, I
So
understand.
by making like a mapping extension map, you're like already cutting off a small size of the player base. So one of the main reasons why I don't use mapping extensions, these mods on my maps, is because well, I just want my maps to be available for everyone to play.
Yeah, that makes sense. Very understandable.
Yeah.
So then again, well, moving on to like the community aspect of Beat Saber, what is like your favorite or like most enjoyable part about the Beat Saber community?
Oh, I just like how the Beat Saber community, they're so wholesome. Like everyone, like there's almost no toxicity, like there's no toxicness
Right.
in the Beat Saber community. Like everyone's really casual. Like even the ranking scene, like occasionally you get people complaining about the newest rank map because it's too difficult, or like there's some things that they think is unrankable. But besides that, everyone's pretty chill, because like it's very casual. That's one thing I like about the Beat Saber community.
That's cute. Sounds very wholesome.
Yeah, like I expected like a bunch of like mappers to maybe like start like quarreling with each other, but everyone's more than happy to work with each other, and so far there haven't been any bad apples in the Beat Saber community.
Hey, that's nice to have then.
Yeah.
So then moving on to like the kind of the opposite, are there any things that you dislike about the community or no?
Ooh, things I dislike about the community. Well, not really. There's actually nothing like I can say
Aw.
that's bad about the community. Like there's a few bad apples here and there that like usually complain like, Beat Saber has too many community maps. It's becoming more like Osu, because like I know Osu has a lot of anime maps, but like Beat Saber, there's like a huge chunk of players that want to play like English pop songs. They just want to dance to the to the rhythm of the
Right.
music. But then like a lot of us mappers, we're just mapping like anime maps, and like we're making really difficult maps that push the mapping, like push the players to their limit. And some players, they aren't looking for that, and a lot of them, they feel like they need to voice out that there's too many anime maps. Like occasionally in the Beat Saber subreddit, you will see like one or two people complain that there's too many anime maps. It's like it's been 2 years. It's getting pretty tiring. Like people are still making anime maps, and there's still people complaining.
You can never
That's the
have
only
too
bad thing I
many
can say
anime
about it.
maps.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's always anime coming out, so there'll always be anime maps.
Exactly. So then, like, so also for people who don't know, like, you also do mapping commissions. So like, how did you start getting into like doing that? Kind of like with Osu, it's like mapping commissions stuff. I've been like quite in the middle of like a bunch
Mhm.
of like drama and controversy. So what's like the scene
Oh
like in
yeah.
Beat Saber?
So I actually heard about the drama from Osu from I there was a bunch there's actually a bunch of Osu mappers that came asking me about how commissioning in Beat Saber was like. Cause and then we talked about how the two communities are different. Like from what I understand in Osu is that ranking is more prominent compared to Beat Saber. Am I
Yeah.
right? Like the homepage of the Osu is only it only shows ranked maps, but for Beat Saber our homepage shows any map, unranked or not. So anyone can post any map there. Um, yeah, and I can see the issue because like commissioning a ranked map, like if you commission a ranked map, you might also commission like moderators or BNs
Right.
or yeah mods to basically rank the map for you. You can pay them, so that's a bit shady, and yeah, I can see the issue with it.
Which is yeah, like in
But fortunately
like
for
in Osu, you like BNs are not allowed to even rank or like nominate commission maps if they know they're
commission
commissioned.
maps,
Yeah.
right?
So they also like can't get paid to
Yeah,
nominate it either.
yeah. Then there's whole drama of like people doing it in secret and all that.
True.
But for Beat Saber, so far, well, because most of the maps in Beat Saber aren't ranked, right? So it's not really that big of an issue. And there's already there's like a quiet rule that commission maps can't be ranked. So usually that's fine because most mappers will announce that their map was commissioned by someone. So the chances of a commission map getting ranked is very unlikely.
Hmm. That's an interesting insight.
Yeah, but to go back,
Yeah, go ahead.
But to go back on the question about how I started doing commissions, so um, I didn't actually. So let me try to recall. So it was around 2 years ago. It was around 1 year ago at the start of 2019. I actually started up my commissions by doing free requests for a lot of people.
Okay.
So on the Beat Saber community Discord, there was like a channel where anybody can post like song requests for a song they want to be mapped. And occasionally when I run out of things to map, I'll go there, I'll pick a song out, I'll be like, hey dude, so I mapped your song, and then they're like, oh hey thanks. So I started doing this, and eventually some people they wanted me to map their song, and they started paying me to jump ahead of the queue. So it's basically doing commissions but with like extra steps. That's what a lot of
Right.
people call it.
So then I guess
Yeah, so like
go ahead.
mhm. Yeah, so like so there was this artist, right? He's some indie artist, and he wanted his song map in Beat Saber. So he asked me about my pricing and stuff like that, and at that point of time I never did commission. So I had to think out of like a price range. That's like cause like at that point of time no one really did like commissions prominently. So I didn't know like how to really price my commissions. Like do I go like per hour of mapping, or do I go per minute of song and stuff like that? But yeah, eventually like that's like I started with going by a per minute of song rate for my commission pricing.
Okay. And like, what is like the rate of that?
So my rates for commissions are $25 per minute of song for a normal song. But if it's a genre of song I enjoy mapping, which is anime, nightcore, Vocaloid, basically anything that's like Japanese or from Japan, anything that's weak basically, I give a small discount, so it becomes $20 per minute of song.
Anime mapper.
But most, yeah, but most mappers they charge around $5 to $15, so I'm charging slightly above that.
That's fair. I mean, you have that also quality coming from you.
I wouldn't say quality. It's more like a reputation. Yeah, I wouldn't call myself like the best mapper that makes like the most quality maps. Like being rank 1 isn't something that I really boast a lot because, in my opinion, right, like the better mapper would be the one that makes the least amount of maps but gets the most amount of likes.
I see. Okay.
For me, like I just feel like I'm brute forcing it.
Just
Cause
mapping
like,
so many,
cause
one
like
of them's bound to be good.
Yeah, exactly. There's like like if you make 560 maps and like each map only gets 2 likes, like you'll get 1,000 likes. But like if you're a mapper that can make 2 maps and each of them gets 500 likes, like I'd say that like that's the better mapper.
I see. It actually puts it into perspective, and that's interesting.
Yeah, but a bunch of people have said, yeah, my mapping style is pretty consistent, and consistency is something people are looking for when they commission a map because they actually don't know what the end product will be. Neither will the mapper know. So being a consistent mapper, I feel, is one of my main draws for people
Yeah, that
commissioning me.
definitely will help a lot. And like
Yeah.
also then with being in that position of like having that high reputation as like really big mapper and all that, how does that feel being into like with the most maps and like most upvotes and stuff like that, and like how did you find yourself into that position?
Ooh, well, it's definitely one thing is that it's a bit stressful at times because when you have a reputation to uphold, you can't make a single bad map. Like, I've made a few bad maps during my time mapping, and those get instantly deleted, and I immediately try to fix it and re-upload it. Hopefully, it gets a better score, stuff like that. And especially cause like you need like for me, since a lot of people commission me, I want like my portfolio of maps to be perfect for them to see.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a bit of stress for to make good maps like constantly and non-stop, especially when you're making it like every
You're
single
right.
day. It definitely starts becoming more and more stressful.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, and then there's also the complaints a lot of people get like like it's good to be well known, but also like more people will come to you like complaining like, oh, you should have done this, you should have mapped that. But one thing you learn about mapping is that you can never please
No, definitely.
everybody who play your map. Yeah, there's so many different types of players, and everyone has their favorite patterns and their favorite mapping style. It's really hard to please. But yeah, after like 2 years of mapping, I've learned to like not really ignore them, but like to not really feel so hurt by people's criticisms about my maps too much.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, you're never gonna be able to appreciate, not appreciate, to appease everybody in your maps.
Yeah, exactly. You're not gonna please everybody, but as long as you please yourself and please the people that you're aiming for, that's all that matters.
And that's a really great mindset to have. All right,
Yeah.
so then I guess coming here to the golden question, if you will, what advice do you have for like
Mhm.
newer mappers or people who want to get like started into Beat Saber mapping?
Oh, so one thing about Beat Saber mapping is well one advice I see a lot of one advice I see a lot of a lot of senior mappers give newer mappers is never map your favorite song first.
Really?
Do they say that in OSU as well? Do they tell new mappers not to map their favorite
Actually,
song
I
first?
haven't really heard most of that at all, really, in Osu. And Osu, it's more like the meme
Yeah,
is
so
just
the
map more.
yeah, I mean, but honestly, yeah, just map more is
Of course.
good advice too. But cause like by mapping more, you're doing the same thing over and over. You'll definitely get better and better at it.
Definitely.
Yeah, but yeah, the reason why I'll say don't map your favorite song first is because your first map probably won't turn out so good. So if it's your favorite song, you're gonna work on it over and over again until it becomes
Right.
good. And by that at that point of time, you've heard your favorite song like over 50 times, and you're gonna be really
It's not
tired
gonna
of
be your
it.
favorite
So I'll
anymore.
say, yeah, it's not gonna be a favorite anymore because you've heard it so much. So I'll say, choose a song that's easy to map, but not one that you really enjoy to like. Not really enjoy, like not. But don't choose a favorite song, because a lot of new mappers, the reason why they map is to map their favorite song, right? That's not in the game.
Right.
So, um, have like have your first song be something that you can map well, that has an easy rhythm that you can follow. It doesn't have to be like like a camellia map, which has like a bunch, like you have to place like notes every single like second. Like it can be a really slow map, and it's fine just to get into basics of mapping. And only when you finally get the fundamentals down, and once you think that your mapping is good enough, then you really start doing all your favorite songs. And it's the same thing for me. Like I wanted to map Ruby, but it's only after 2 months of mapping then I finally mapped my first Ruby song.
That makes sense. And then at that point, you know what you're doing and you're enjoying it a lot more, and you can actually make something you're even proud
Mm.
of.
Yeah, exactly. Like at that point of time, you're no longer in the trial and error stage. You're more in the trying to improve yourself, trying to experiment, trying to see how you can get better and better.
Hey, that's a pretty good advice and mindset to keep while mapping. All
Yeah.
right, and I guess so. Coming here to a close, then, since are there any like last
Okay.
things you want to mention or announce, like projects or anything?
Ooh, projects. Yeah, I have a few projects that I'm working on right now. I have two new song packs that's coming out soon. I have a JoJo
Oh.
song pack, which is actually commissioned by a fan artist from this subreddit called Shitpost Crusaders. He's a big he's a big Beat Saber fan, and he's commissioned like a whole song pack of JoJo openings for me to map. So that's
Interesting. That's
coming
pretty
out
cool.
soon. The last
Yeah.
yeah like the last map in the song pack is gonna be like a 14 to 15 minute compilation of all the JoJo
Oh, wow.
openings.
How was that like to map?
Yeah. Then there's also another song pack which is also commissioned by someone else. So this person, his name's Aqua. He's a big fan of anime movies and the music in
Okay.
them. So he's commissioned a whole song pack of anime movie songs for me to map. So that's also coming out soon.
Nice.
And there's also I'm also there's also like an idea I'm working on, which is to have a animation, like a character animation inside a Beat Saber
What do you
map.
mean by that?
So so you know shows like Ruby, it's all made in 3D
Right, yeah.
animation. So theoretically you can have the animation in a VR space, so like you can see in VR.
Oh.
So I was thinking of combining that with a Beat Saber map. So it's like, so you're like playing a song while at the same time in the background you have like characters fighting to the beat
That'd
of
be
the
super
music. So
cool.
it feels like you're
Dang.
part of. Yeah, it's super cool. But right now I'm still looking to find animators, and I'm still trying to sort out the logistics of how to put an animation into a Beat Saber environment and stuff like
That makes sense. Yeah, that's actually
Yeah.
sounds really cool. So then, Jenny,
Mhm.
so right almost to a close here again. Are there any people you'd like to shout out?
Oh yeah, there's one person I really want to shout out, and his name is Squeakies. He's the person who made the third party Beat Saber mapping program. It's called Mediocre
All right.
Mapper.
Yeah.
And just by telling about like I can just tell from the name that Squeaks isn't like he's like I can tell like by his chest he's always stressed out, and he's not really too happy about
Aw.
this program. But this program has like I spent like hours on this program making over 500 maps on it. So shout out to him for making this program. If it wasn't for him making this third party mapping application, I wouldn't have made this much maps
Heck yeah.
today.
Thank you, Squeaky.
Yeah.
All right. So the final question right here, right before we end it,
Mm-hmm.
will you do a beat map commission for me?
Oh yeah, dude, I'm always open to do commissions for anybody. I'll even give you a discount. Give you
Hey.
like maybe instead of like $25 or $20 per minute of song, I can give you $15
Heck
per
yeah,
minute
I'm
of
down.
song.
Let's go. It's gonna be a Ruby song.
Oh, dude, definitely. Oh, but unfortunately, I've mapped almost every single Ruby
Oh.
song like out there. Like I've already been commissioned to map like almost all
That's
of them.
cool. All right. Yeah, so this
Yeah.
has been episode 19 with Joetastic. I really appreciate you coming on here and explaining like Beat Saber and like how that whole scene is like, and I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on, man.
And yeah, thanks for inviting me to the show. Appreciate it.
Of course. And yeah, if you enjoyed this episode and listened all the way through, yeah, please do leave a like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. As always, all feedback is definitely appreciated. And if you want more episodes like with different rhythm games or other like mappers from different scenes and stuff, please do let me know. And yeah, bye.